I wish that I'd been taught when I was at school. I'm an investor, a business owner, and a money educator. Understand it better. Compound interest, cash flow, budgeting, investments, recover from debt. No one explained to me, put your money to work. It's about normalising the conversation. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Money Mechanics podcast. It's great to have you here. Thanks for listening or watching if you're over on YouTube. So today we are joined by Louise, who is the founder of the Dance Business Coach. And I met Louise for a friend, and Louise has got an incredible business, works with incredible clients. And I went to an event of hers last year and spoke at an event. And one of the things that really struck me was the journey that she's been on, what she now facilitates in her own clients. And I wanted to have this conversation because I think it's a really important conversation to be having. So Louise, tell us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself, first of all.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. So I'm Louise. I initially started as a dance business owner. I started as a dance teacher. And then through time, I realised actually I'm more than just a dance teacher. We are running a business here, and it's not just a little hobby where, it's a charity and the parents can pay if they want to. I actually started to see it like a business. So then that shift happened quite early on, actually, when I started my business in 2010. And then it wasn't until COVID times where I started helping other dance teachers, because they were very much stuck in that mindset of, I am the dance teacher, I am everything to everyone. And I just was not running mine like that at all. And I started to see a gap where people needed help and support to actually start running their school like a business. So that's where I started. I just basically started with a free Facebook group. I supported schools in there for a year. I didn't know where it was going to go. And then I kind of started by launching my first short online course, which led to my membership launching 4 years ago now. So it's predominantly just helping. It's mostly women in business, actually. It's helping them to create more impact, more profit, and more freedom inside their business, and just to realise that there's a better way to run things, because a lot of them initially when they join us, they're just like slaves to their business. They're not living life. They're stuck. They're worried about making changes. They're just we just kind of open up their mind to what's possible. And we have not only helped people grow their business, we've literally, some of the transformations, people are changing their lives as a result of the work, and I know that sounds
and this is why I'm so excited about this conversation, because you obviously predominantly work with women, and whilst we've got listeners who are across the board, actually I think where women consider the money topic especially, we're a little bit late to the party when it comes to money as women, because we've not been allowed our own bank accounts. We've not been allowed credit. There's all these things so actually our approach as women to money, I think, is significantly different to men. And we'll get into that in a minute. But it's why I think it's such an exciting conversation for us to have today. So what's your earliest memory of money?
For me, I think back to money. I'm one of 5 kids. So my mum and dad were crazy enough to have 5 of us. I was a middle child. We weren't brought up with a lot of money. Money was like, we would get, we weren't we didn't go without. We would get gifts and presents and stuff at Christmas and at birthdays, but apart from that, I didn't think there was ever much spare cash. So my dad would say that line, and I know everybody says this and it's so cliche, but he'd be like, money doesn't grow on trees.
Money doesn't grow on trees. I knew that was what you were going to say.
Because I feel like everybody says it, and I'm very conscious to not say that to my own kids. And I just think, I remember even back when I went to dance school as a young kid, I always remember them saying things like, oh, she's a money grabber, talking about my dance teacher. So I think that played a big part. When I started my school, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can charge that amount, because they will call me a money grabber, because I heard my mum and dad say that, not in a malicious way about the teacher, but they just felt like, oh, they were always asking for money. And they did invest quite a lot. Yeah, they invested a lot into us going to dance class. Don't know how they done it, but they did. And but I also remember, in contrast to that, my uncle I always had this perception that he had money. You know, he had, like, we all lived in a flat, like a top flat in the East End of Glasgow. My uncle stayed in a more like posh area, that is the way that I could see it. They had their own house. My cousins all had their own bedrooms, whereas we all shared. They used to drive like a BMW, and I just they used to go out for dinner a lot. And I remember being like, they're going out to a restaurant and it's nobody's birthday. And so I always was thinking in my head, that's where I want to get to. I want to get to a point where, God, one of my earliest goals was just to have my own bedroom, and just for like my kids to have their own bedroom, because it's something I didn't have. And so I always just could see that contrast between our family and theirs. Not that we were any less happy than them or anything, but I could always see that money was available to me. And that was like that was my vision. I could see that was available because my uncle had it.
Amazing. I love that. And isn't it interesting that even as kids, just how much we absorb of that? And, you know, I think they say like your beliefs as an adult, your identity as an adult, you learn it before you're 7, right? So, you know, being in that environment and having that cross section of environments, quite interesting that's carved out a part of what you are now.
Yeah, do you know what's funny? I'm surprised that even came up there when you asked me that question. But I just always remember back to thinking like, oh, you don't have to always live like this. You know, there's other ways. And
there's other ways.
And I always just had that in my mind. And I never... Now, definitely my relationship with money is, I always think money flows through me. It comes easy. Like, I don't see it as a bad thing in any way. And I always think as well, a lot of people, certainly when I grew up, had the perception that people with money were bad people. And I just know that not to be true.
Yeah, 100%. So would you say that whole ethos of money flows through me, it comes to me, I'm a magnet for money, that kind of internal narrative, do you think you've always had that, or has there been a point where you think it really did shift? Okay, a very short interruption of the episode, so I want you to get back to listening. I just wanted to remind you that the Money Mechanics weekly newsletter is completely free, and we'll send this out to you every week. All you've got to do is find the link in the show notes and get signed up. When we send this out to you, this weekly newsletter is going to include things that will help you to become a better money mechanic. It could be things like what's happening in the markets, things like budgets, how that's going to impact you. And I'm also going to share a lot of insight into what I'm doing in my own portfolio and in the portfolio of the guests we've got on the podcast, to really just help you understand what you could do differently to make your money work as best as it can for you. Make sure you go and find that link and get signed up.
I think in the early days of running my business, I probably didn't feel like that. Like I was scared to spend back then. I wouldn't invest as much as I invest now in my learning and in my growth. I even remember in the early days of having a business, I was still in that mindset of I can't buy myself something because it's not my birthday and it's not Christmas. So there would be a guilt there for buying myself things. But I think I've always just had a really positive outlook in general growing up. I've always had a big vision. I've always just known that you know, one day I'm going to be a millionaire, and all of these all of these things are possible for me. And I've just always had that belief, I suppose. And I don't know how, I don't know why, but yeah, and I do a lot of work on my mindset, I guess, and it takes time.
I think interestingly, most people I know who have got a level of success financially in business are continuing always to do the work, because you always reach a level and you're like, oh, well, I've done £1 million. You're like, right, let's do 2. And like, fuck, that's a big number. Like, I've not done that before. And we have to continue to work on that, I think, always.
Yeah, I think it's like going to the gym, isn't it? You can't like go to the gym and get in shape and then go, right, that's me done.
That's me done, finished, completed it.
You're just going to need to keep going to maintain. And that's the way I see everything in life and business.
I love that. So let's go to your first year in business. So 2010, you started a dance school. And at the start, it was just you, I assume. Tell us a story around that, like, first year in business and kind of how that then evolved to where we are now.
Yeah, so I mean, I was so naive. I was 23. I had no business experience, but I just had a vision. I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time. We were saving up for a house. So we had a little bit of savings. I think maybe around about £15,000. Hopefully he never hears this and wants any of that money back. but basically, this studio became available and it needed like renovating, and I was just like, yeah, why not? I'll just dive in and do that. And so he let me use that money we had been saving to kind of get myself started. And again, just didn't know if it was going to work, didn't have any business experience, but I was passionate, I was ambitious, and I thought I'll make it work. And I think I've always just had that attitude, like, no matter what you're going to throw at me, no matter what I try and do here, I'll figure it out somehow. And I think I just had that kind of naive outlook back then. So I dived straight in 2010, started the school, running it all myself. So like one woman band, I was teaching, I was doing everything, and the money was coming in, but I had no systems, I had no processes in place back then because I had no experience. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And then very quickly I was like, wow, this is not sustainable. I'm exhausted. And I didn't have kids then. And I just thought, how do people do this when they've got like families and stuff? Is this even a life? Because I was teaching all night, and I was working at any opportunity to come up. I was like, yes, I'll do that. I'll work every day of the week. So then I just I worked with a coach at the time. I started to pull myself back from teaching, brought in more people, started to trust them. And then within 5 years, I'd stopped teaching at all. And I had like 2 locations at that point. And my job was to oversee the business, market. Again, I don't even think I knew what the word marketing was back then. I just was like learning as I went. So that's kind of where it started, really. I just started I've always loved money. See, to be honest, I've always loved money, and I can't even deny that. And I think so many people,
which is fine.
But I think so many people don't admit that they want to have money, and it's not even for the sake of the money. It's the excitement of like figuring out how to earn it. It's the way that it forces you to grow. Like, it's all of these things. So this is really interesting, because when you're talking about money, clearly the emotion that it brings up for you is really excited. You're not like embarrassed about it. You're proud of it. Like, it's a big part of a very positive headspace for you. Let's talk a little bit about the clients that you work with, because I know you work with a lot of women. Would you say that most women that you come into contact with in a business sense have an attitude to money that's a positive one, or one that is like, that's kind of a sabotaging headspace? Like, which is the most prevalent, would you say? Oh yeah, it's definitely more sabotaging. Sometimes people feel like, oh, I can't talk about money. I can't admit that I want money. Because when people join our community, we work with like over 400 women right now, like inside our community. There's a couple of men in there, but when they come in and I'll be like, right, how much do you want to earn? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And then I'll get them to say a figure, and then they'll say, is that too much, or is that not enough, or is that? And I'm like, you tell me. Like, what?
You tell me, yeah.
And,
absolutely.
Then they'll be like, do I sound greedy? And I'm like, no, there's no judgment here. And I think, through time, they start to, they realise. And it's so funny, because one of the things I've committed to doing this year is trying to talk more about money, to take away that like shame and that, let's not admit we're
that is the
talking
whole
about money.
point of this podcast. Like, we should be talking about it. And I think we're not taught it at school. Most people aren't sitting around the dinner table at home having conversations about money. I know my upbringing was, we didn't talk about money because it was rude to ask about money. It was like bad manners to ask people how much they earn and stuff like that. And the more time I've spent with wealthy people, the more I've realized that they had conversations about money from when they were little. And the people that I know who've never had any money were all the people that grew up with, money doesn't grow on trees. If you've got money, then you're an arsehole. Like, you know, if you're going to be rich, you'll have taken it from somebody else. This real negative headspace. What do you think is the key for helping people move from having a negative relationship with money to having a positive relationship with money? Is there something that kind of most people go through in your experience?
Yeah, well, one of the things for me that I always reiterate to the people we work with is money only makes you more of what you are. Like, if you're already an arsehole, then you'll be more of an arsehole. But if you're a good, nice, kind, decent person, you'll be able to do more. And I think the business owners, when they join us, they start to realise that actually the more they charge their customers, the better they can make their experience. And then everybody starts to win. So it's not, and I think as well, I sometimes have to give people a shake and be like, why would a parent want to bring their kid to your dance school and they would want you to have no money. They'd want you to struggle. They'd want you to like not be able to pay your bills. Like, why would they want you to teach their child? Like, and I think sometimes when we remind people of that, because I'm just like, people are like, decent people are drawn to success. And for me, if I send my kids somewhere, I don't want them to go somewhere where the teacher's struggling, can't make ends meet, is scared to charge me the right amount. And I think the more that we talk about that, and we talk about being okay with saying that you want a certain amount of money, it's not greedy and you're just not a bad person. I just think, for me, I think anyway, money is a fair exchange of value. And I know that the business owners we work with are providing value with everything that they do in their schools. You know, they're giving the kids belonging, they're giving them confidence, they're giving them all these things. And I just think that's valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So do you think that everybody should want to strive to be wealthy?
I do think that wealth is just very different to everybody, isn't it? Like, I do know people with a lot of money that are miserable, that don't have their health. And then equally, I know people that maybe don't have a lot of money, but they're happy. So it's deciding, I guess, what wealth is for you. And I just think, for me anyway, there's no amount of money in the bank that is ever going to make you feel safe. But like, you know, no matter if you've got £10 in the bank or £10 million, that sort of safety or that feeling that you're looking for, that happiness, can't be found in money anyway. So I do think, I mean, I would rather have money than not have it. I do know that. And I think, you know, money does give you options. Like, let's be honest, it gives you options to invest in yourself, invest in your business, do nice things with family, help family. That's one of the things for me, certainly in the last year. One of the reasons I want to make more money is to help my family more. And then again, in turn, helping the people that we work with, allowing them to create a better life for their families. So I think everyone should definitely strive to have money and not shy away from it because of the fear of coming across a certain way to other people.
I think it's really interesting. I think when we try and define, like, what does rich mean to you or me or whoever's listening to this, actually that definition is really different for everybody. So like, what it means to me and what it means to you will be different. You know, I'm in Ibiza at the moment and I've come here for 2 months with my dog. I drove here. I can afford to be here and also still pay everything I need to pay at home and not worry about money. For me, that's the point of money in my life, is that I want to be able to have the choice to do what I want to do when I want to do it without having to worry about money. I don't really have desires to like be a billionaire. That's not really a label that I don't really connect with the word millionaire, although on paper, technically I am that. I don't really care about the label. For me, it's the experience of my life and how am I able to show up in my life for me and the people around me. That's what rich means to me. Like, the wealth is in that experience of life rather than the being able to say I've got more than other people. And I think, like, if I said to you, like, what's your definition of being rich? What would you say for you?
My definition of being rich is similar to what you said. It's being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, and being able to just, like, when I think about my perfect day or my perfect week, there's nothing extravagant about it. Like, it's having a nice coffee, going a walk, speaking to people that I love. Like, there is nothing extravagant, and I definitely think there's something to be said about you make a certain amount of money, anything beyond that doesn't add to your happiness or to your life. And I think, like, even when I had one of the biggest months in our business in October, and it was like a month that I would have only dreamed of having, and then I just looked at the bank account and I was like, right, okay. Like, it didn't make me any happier. And like, my husband was like, let's go celebrate. And I'm like, nah, because although you're growing and you want to make money and you want to build your business, you're not actually doing it for the money. Like, I get a better feeling from somebody messaging me saying that they've changed their life, they've done all this stuff, than a number in the bank. So
I get that completely.
So the rich life to me is
The rich life is a life of choice, I think.
Yeah, and it's just not having to worry about the main bills, as you said. It's knowing that everything's paid for and being able to, like, relax in that. But yeah, a rich life to me is not like Lamborghinis and private jets and like stuff like that. You know, it's just,
and I mean, for some people that will be what they want, and that's also fine. There's no judgment here, right? It's what is it for you, and then if it is different to what you have right now, then you have to do something to create and activate change. So in your experience of working people as a coach, as a mentor, which you've worked with, you know, hundreds of people, helping them build their businesses, but as you build a business, you build the human. So what do you think is, or what would you say are like the top 2 pieces of advice to help people handle getting away from an old money mindset to a new money mindset? Like to be in, actually, I know that I don't have a good relationship with money and I want to have it. What's the core things that people can do to actively start to get control of it and move towards a more positive?
For me, one of the easiest things that I found for myself is getting around people that talk about it comfortably. And that, like, you know, for me, that's like going to, whether I've been to retreats or joined masterminds or just got in rooms where it's normal to talk like that, because like you say, we're not brought up chatting about money, and if you do chat about it, you're like, oh, who does she think she is, type thing. So it's getting in rooms where it's normalized, and it's like people are just, I remember one of the first masterminds I joined when I had just started the coaching business, and I was sitting and the lady stood up and she's like, yeah, my coaching business is making £100,000 a month, and I was like, what? Like, are we talking about this sort of money here? And it was just that really opened my eyes. And that's why our events, we always openly talk about money. We share our goals. We share how much we want. And the funniest thing happens where somebody will stand up and say, my goal is to do 50k this month. And then somebody maybe sit beside them, say their goal had been 20k. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, she's saying 50. Maybe I'm just going to ask for more then. And it just something happens, I think, when you're in that room where people are just talking about it and normalizing it. So I'd say that's the first thing. Find like a space or get around people that talk about it and that aren't ashamed to want to make it, because that's a big thing. And for me, I'm really interested in like learning about money, whether it's through books, through courses, through podcasts. Like I've just finished The Psychology of Money, actually. It took me ages to read it. I just kept dipping in and out, and I'm more of an audio, but this was like an actual book. So I'm just educating yourself about it. And I think when it comes to all the saving side of things and the investments, I remember you said that when you came to speak at our event almost 2 years ago in May, which is crazy.
That's mad.
I know, it's gone so fast and everything's just grown since then. But I remember you talking about people wait until they've got enough money to save, whereas a lot of the ladies then who were in that room when you were speaking, they started saving like straight away, and they started building good habits with money, like getting healthier habits where even if it's just a small amount, it's just that feeling of it compounding. So I think just like that, educating yourself and not waiting, because I think people just wait until I've got all this extra money. And I think no matter how much money you make, that'll never happen. No matter how much you make.
Generally, we spend to our limit, and a lot of people spend over their limit, right? So if you're waiting to have an extra £10 a week to invest, you'll never have an extra £10 a week to invest. So you might as well just put the £10 a week in first and then live without your £10 a week. And I say to clients all the time, you actually can make a difference with £10 a week. It doesn't, or even £10 a month. Like if you're really, really starting from scratch, it actually can make it, because what it does is it teaches you the discipline of always doing it, even when it's only small. Instead of waiting until you've got a big amount of money, which may never come, you start to see the compounding effect of that. And like you say, when you educate around it and you do something that's different to what you're doing now, then you do start to see a different set of results, right?
Yeah, and I think psychologically something changes when you know you're doing that regularly, and then like that when you do see it compounding, it gets addictive, and you're like, oh, maybe we could increase how much we're putting into this. And but sometimes then something just happens, I think, where you go, I'd rather put the money to that than go buy that bag that's going to like get shoved in a cupboard somewhere.
Or even that coffee. Like I'll make coffee at home actually, because that £9 Starbucks, if I buy a Starbucks every week, that's £40. I could put that into the S&P 500 and compound it over the next 20 years. That's worth a lot of money. Like, and it is that the consistency is such an important detail, whether it is saving or investing or in anything actually. The more consistent you can be, the better.
Yeah, so I just think cleaning up your habits around money, And I think just getting to grips with what you're spending as well, because a lot of people, when they come to us, they don't really know what's coming in and what's going out in their business or in their personal life. And I think once you actually face it and you can, because a lot of people just kind of bury their head in the sand, don't they, when it comes to money?
Yeah.
So I think once you get to grips with that, first of all, because otherwise what tends to happen is what you just said, people make more, but they spend more. Yeah. And they just they're not really keeping track. The lifestyle just keeps expanding to the extra money that they're making. And I think it's just important to know the fact.
A friend who got a £10,000 a year pay rise and bought a £60,000 car on finance. Yeah, mental. Because when you actually look at it, £10,000 a year after tax is only £5,000. And actually, with the increase in their finance and the interest, they were losing money every month because they'd had a pay rise. They didn't talk to me first. Sadly, they'd already done it and they sent me a picture. But I think what happens is we start to earn a bit more. And we're like, I can spend a bit more now. And then you spend it. But actually, we don't look at what's the nitty gritty of the numbers, because we're not taught to do that. We're not encouraged to talk about money or discuss it with friends. We're just taught to put stuff on finance and debt and not really get into it. So, yeah, it's crazy, I think.
Yeah, it's just normalized to just like bury your head in the sand, I think, and make more, spend more. Let's buy a bigger house. Let's go get a car. All of these things. But I remember when I was a student, just walking into the bank and being like, "Can I get an overdraft, please?" And they just gave me an overdraft. I didn't need it. I remember they used to just, I don't know if it's still the same. They just done it on the spot. And then whenever my friend and I, we were studying at college, sometimes we'd be like, "Oh, we want to go a shopping trip. Let's just go in and increase our overdraft." And just like so uneducated when it came to money. And in my head, I'm like, it's not my money. It's the bank's money. It's fine. And then when you're earning, it comes back and you're like, "Oh, here's this
100%.
over." And I do remember the day that I cleared that overdraft, being like, "Oh, I felt so proud of myself."
Well done.
I just think it's so reckless, though, that they just do that.
Well, it's built like that because then you're with them forever. Because when you're in debt with a bank, you don't leave generally. And I think I was talking to a friend about this recently, and I get more, when I'm talking to people about investing and saving now, I get more pushback on people talking to me about how investing's a scam and I shouldn't do it and blah, 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 than I ever did when I was putting loads of money on credit cards. No one ever said, "Don't do that. That's a really bad idea. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea." People now say to me, even though I invest, I'm in the markets, people still say to me now, "Sarah, the stock market's a scam." Like, but you never said to me that credit cards were a scam. I don't understand it.
I've never thought about it like that. But yeah,
we're actively encouraged to get into debt and to really be in that space for our whole life. And yet society believes that investing is definitely going to is a scam. And actually, when you think about the peer pressure on either side, we are really encouraged not to invest because it's a scam. Yet being in debt and paying loads of money is not a scam, but in my mind it is. So I don't know.
That's so interesting, and I think that comes for investing in any part of your life, like whether it is in what you've talked about or even investing in something like a business coach. Because I remember when I joined my business coach, I was like £10,000 to get into the mastermind, and again the average person would be like, "Wow, that's a scam." Why? And some people still think all of that sort of stuff is a scam. But again, it's still a level of investment, isn't it? And I definitely think that for me, that was the best money I've ever spent because it helped me grow massively. And something happens in you where you just make that commitment and you automatically, your mindset shifts. You're like, "I'm going to make this work." But like people think that sort of stuff's a scam, but they wouldn't think twice of going and putting a holiday on a credit card.
Absolutely. Blowing £10,000 on a holiday to Disneyland, which is like a 2-week window that, 100%. And this, I don't understand this. So this is why we absolutely are having this conversation and why Money Mechanics, why I wrote the book, why we do the podcast, because of this exact thing.
It's so
actually,
true.
And the society norm is wild.
Yeah, and it's the same when it comes to weddings. Like for me and my husband, we just eloped to Vegas because we met in Vegas, and I was like, "I don't want a big wedding," and I'm not tight in any way at all. Like, I am sometimes overly generous, but when it came to a wedding, I was like, I grudge spending that money on a day. Like, I just grudge it. I don't even want to be in a big dress. I didn't want all that fancy stuff. So we ran away to Vegas and got married. And again, each to their own, but for me, I just seen that as like, that's normal for people to go spend 40 grand on a wedding day. And to me, that's just like...
When we got married, we were planning the wedding for like a year and a half, and I was keeping a spreadsheet of all of the things, and we were having all of the things you could possibly want. And I remember us sitting down at one point, and at this point we had about 60 grand of debt. Like, we had no money whatsoever. And I remember going through it, and it was like £36,000 we were spending on this wedding. And I remember sitting talking to Andy and being like, why are we doing that? That's madness. So we basically just deleted the lot, and we went real like low. And instead we spent 10 grand to go around the world for 3 months on our honeymoon. And actually we had a wedding. It was a great wedding. I think we spent about 6 grand. Like, it wasn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of weddings. And we took £10,000 and we traveled the world with it. And like, that was the right thing to do, because we got experience from it. We weren't paying for other people to have their dinner. Like, it actually, we went to Thailand, we went to all these places, and that was a good decision. But people spending 30, 40, 50 grand on one day, again, each to their own, and there's no judgment, but imagine what else you could do with that money.
Yeah, I feel the same about Christmas. Like, I've just got this, like, I mean, again, I'm generous, I'm happy, but I go, wow, the energy and the time and the money people pour into Christmas Day baffles me so much, because I'm like, if you put that time and energy and money into a business or personal development or something else, like, you would just grow so much, but they put all this emphasis, and I think it is just because it's the norm. Like, it's normal for people to spend a fortune on a wedding and on Christmas Day, and I can't get on board with that.
So let's talk a little bit about it. People who are entrepreneurial, so starting businesses. What do you think is the like money rules that really help people that are launching businesses? Because whether it's a dance business or whether it's any sort of business, I think probably the money rules apply. What would you say are some core rules that you get your clients to stick to?
For me, I mean, I don't know if this counts, but for me, it's making sure your pricing is right, first of all, if you're in business or if you're starting a business, because a lot of the businesses we work with price themselves too low, and they just don't have the money coming in to even afford the basic bills, never mind pay themselves. First of all, it just be making sure that your pricing is not only where it needs to be, but where you want it to be, obviously relative to the value that you provide to the market. But I think that's the first thing. So many people are like, I'm not making any money. I'm like, no wonder your prices are like from 20 years ago. I've not put a price increase for the last 10 years. And I'm like, well, no wonder you're struggling. So we just be making sure that that's right. And as I said, just making sure that you've got good money habits in place. So a lot of our ladies now that we work with will do like finance Fridays, where they'll sit down and they'll check in with the sales that they've made. They'll see what's coming in, what's going out, and just have an awareness around it. Because again, when I started the business, I did not have a clue about business or money or anything, and I didn't know what came in and what came out. I remember I used to just like hold my breath at the end of the month and be like, okay, we've paid all our bills, everything's paid, right? Okay, I can breathe again, and then let's get all the money back in, and then I used to just kind of live like that at the start. I was just like, the bills are paid, right? We're fine, we're doing okay.
We're fine.
But I think you don't start a business just to pay bills and to pay staff. Like, that's not the purpose of a business.
No, it's not. Like, you could have a job for that and be way less stressed.
Yeah, and have more money probably.
And probably have more money, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's really good advice. And it's actually really good advice for anyone. So Finance Fridays, I love that concept. So we have a similar thing. We have like a month end, but we have like a weekly check-in with the money. I think whether you've got a business or those people listening to this who don't have businesses, having a personal Finance Friday is a really good idea. Before you go and blow it in the pub or on takeaway or whatever, like, actually, what did you spend this month? Or what did you spend this week? How many pounds did you spend on Vinted? How many things have you put on Klarna? Like, actually, what is happening with your money, like at a real detailed level? I think that's a really good piece of advice, Louise. Like, the more you can be on top of it and across the detail in a consistent way, the more likely it is to grow rather than shrink, right?
Yeah, and it's less stressful then because so many people avoid it, and it's like then it feels like such a big thing. Whereas when you're just doing that little bit every week, you feel on top of it. I think that it gives you more confidence, doesn't it? To then know, right, next week I want to make more sales, or I think it's just that awareness and that knowledge, and instead of burying their head in the sand, because I think, especially women, I don't know if it's the same for men, but I think a lot of women do bury their head in the sand. And I just think this year it's just, it needs to be different. And that's one of the things that we're just driving inside the community, to get a grip on the finances, not only the revenue, but the profit inside their business.
And again, revenue and profit, such different things that a lot of people don't really talk about the difference, because the online space talks about how much money you make, but actually they're talking about turnover. They're not talking about profit. And you don't make turnover, you sell turnover, but you make profit. And actually what you keep is way more important. And I say this often to my clients: it's better to have £100,000 turnover business and keep 40% of it than it is to have £1 million turnover business and only keep 1% of that. Like, in theory, a smaller business is often a better business because you can keep more of the money. Not all circumstances, but in your experience with your clients, we'll come back to the, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it. So as women, I think a lot of the female clients that I work with tend to have this sort of sabotaging approach when it comes to money. Either they don't deserve it, or it's not what women do, or it's impolite. Has that been your experience of working with women when it comes specifically to the money part?
Oh, yeah. Initially, it's like they'll sabotage it by... Some of the women, funnily enough, if they're generous, they become overly generous. So when they do get the money, it's like they just give it all away. We find that happens, and it just happens like subconsciously. But again, one of the big things that we encourage people to do is just admit how much they want to make, and we help them work towards making that happen, because I think there's a lot of guilt attached for women, guilt around wanting more, guilt around maybe family members not having the same opportunities as them. So there's a bit of like, oh, well, I don't want to do too well because it might make that person feel a certain way.
Less than.
And I think for me, whilst it's important to make money, I think for me anyway, I've got a nice healthy relationship with it, and that I'm detached from it. Like in the way that if it's taken away, I'm not, like, my self-worth doesn't disappear. And equally, if I make more, I don't think I'm better than anyone else. And I think that's one of the things we keep within our community. Like, if you have a crap month in business, it doesn't impact your self-worth. So it's having that healthy detachment from it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that so many people connect the amount of money they've got to their self-worth, to their value in the world. And, like we've talked about throughout this, money doesn't create the happiness. It doesn't. And actually, there's been times in my business life where I've had a lot of money and still been really unhappy with it. And there's been times where I've had less money and been like, but I loved earning it. It was great fun. We're creating impact. Like, we're having a great time. Money for the sake of money isn't the point. It doesn't create the happiness. And you said it earlier on, the happiness isn't in that. It's in the bit of what you're doing, how you feel, how you show up, the way you talk to yourself, your inner narrative, your relationships. It's actually in there. Money just greases the wheels and makes life just that little bit easier to live.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you focus on impact, the income comes. Like, when you're so, for us inside the community with the women we work with, we're just so obsessed with getting them results that, the value that we give, the service that we give, the money's always going to come. So that's, even although we set big goals in the business, I'm never fixated on the money. And it's just more that excitement. And it's sometimes what you were saying there, when you don't have a lot, you're happier, because I think the hunting part is like the funnest bit. Like,
it's definitely, for some people, it's definitely the most fun bit, for sure.
For me, it's like not about it being in the bank. It's like, right, how can we be creative to make more sales? What can we do? How can we help more people? And every time you focus on that, like, the money just comes as a byproduct.
Yeah, I agree completely. And actually, there's been periods of time, and I don't know if you have the same thing, where actually, as an entrepreneur, you can get a little bit disillusioned with running a business. There's times when it's really, really bloody hard to do. And you feel like, you know what, I'm really working hard and it's just not doing what I want it to do, it's not coming how I thought it would. And when you stop focusing on money, earning the money, and you start focusing on, like, well, how can I just have some fun again? It shifts completely, and we enjoy it. Well, for me anyway, like, I enjoy making it again. When you enjoy it, it will come. And it sounds a bit like woo, but I do think if you have fun, then you get paid as a consequence.
Cheesy. Yeah, I know it does sound cheesy, doesn't it? But I just think it is possible to, like, build a business that you love and live life on your terms. And it's trying to get that, figuring out how to be able to do both. And I think one of the biggest things is to find meaning in your work, whatever that looks like for you. That, as long as there's meaning behind it. Like, if I was running a business that I just was not even excited by, I wouldn't want to get up out of bed every day. Whereas like days like today, I've had conversations with amazing women, and it just makes me feel excited.
I love this. So I 100% could talk for a long time, but I've got a couple of things I want to ask you just to wrap up. So if you had, like, one piece of advice for women specifically, because that's your specialism, to start to accept and welcome money into their life, what daily habit could they be doing that would make that easier, in your experience?
Yeah, in my experience, and I suppose habits that I maybe do as well, is I don't let self-doubt creep in ever. And I think the way that I do that is I focus a lot. This is what we focus on as well with the community. It's not always on building the business or working on the business. It's working on ourselves. So whatever that looks like for you, like whether it's going walking, listening to a podcast, reading the books about money, not letting self-doubt come in, being aware of that narrative that you're, the stories that you're telling yourself, that you're, oh, you don't deserve to make that sort of money. Like, anytime those come in, like, replace them with more useful thoughts. Like, I think, again, over time, you probably train your brain a wee bit, don't you? It's not like swapping negative for positive. Like, I don't believe in all that, let's just pretend we're positive, but it's like, is this thought useful? No, let's replace it with something more useful. And again, just being around, like, we run a community of people that talk about money. I'm in communities where people are happy to make money and share how they're making money. And I think it just normalizes the whole thing. So that'd be the main
just
thing.
Be around it more, talk about it more, think about it differently. And I think it's really interesting because actually it's a very simple answer. And I think often people are looking for a really complicated magic pill that they can take. And they're like, if I do all of these things and all of these things, the results will always be the same. And, you know, a lot of the interviews that I've done, we always ask this question, you know, like, what are the daily habits that people can do differently? And getting in and around it and talking more about it is often the answer. Is when it becomes part of your everyday life in a really positive way, it just becomes part of your everyday life in a positive way, and more of that compounds over time. So it's interesting that you obviously have the same answer.
Yeah, because I just think for me, like, and I think everybody should feel like this, like, everybody's worthy of having and being and doing whatever it is that they want. So I think a lot of it does start with the inner belief. Like, if people are working on themselves, the money, you don't get so caught up in, like, it feeling awkward or anything, because you're just so, you just feel more calm in yourself. And I think, I just wish more people would just admit what they want and go out and get it and believe in themselves. And go out and get it, like, visualize it, get on the right frequency, take action, all that sort of woo-woo stuff. But I guess the important part is taking action. Like, if you're not happy with what you're making right now, it's like, right, well, you're going to need to change something. So what are you willing to do differently? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to change?
This is it. If you carry on doing what you're doing now, and the results you're getting now aren't the results that you want, then you're mad if you think you're going to get different results. Like, you've got to do something differently. So the action bit, we can't just think about it and money will happen. We've got to actually do something as well. Yeah,
if that was the case, everybody would be like minted,
thinking themselves rich.
But I think it's just like, some people just think that this big like ball of money is going to land on their lap one day. Like, people just go through their life and they'll obviously put the lottery on and they'll think one day I'm just going to get handed money, and you're not. So you literally need to go out there and get it.
Make it happen.
Yeah. And the best way to create it, again, there's so many ways. As you said, there might be business owners, there might not be business owners. There's a million different ways to create money.
There sure is.
And there's enough for everyone as well. Like, you making money isn't taken from anyone else. And I just think people need to believe more in abundance. And
I agree completely. So we'll wrap up. At the end of every episode, we have a question for you from our previous guest, and then we will ask you for a question for our next guest. You can ask anything you want. So first of all, I'll ask you the question that we have for you, which is, how do you feel when you make money?
This is see what I was saying earlier. When we had our biggest month, I was just like, nah. Like, it doesn't. I love the chase. I love the like making offers. I love creating things. I love helping people change. But the actual money in the bank, like the actual notification that, oh, you've got a Stripe payment today, doesn't give me any
you see
sort
that
of
as
feeling.
a consequence. It's not the thing that like gets you excited.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I feel like, see, when I maybe wasn't making money and I heard somebody saying that, I probably wouldn't believe them. But genuinely, like, it doesn't give me any sort of feeling. Whereas I get like, we had 500 people on a Zoom last year. We were running a workshop, and like, see the feeling before that, during that, the excitement, the churn, the butterflies. That was the best feeling. But then when the money comes in the bank, it's just like, oh. So it just the actual money itself,
doing the work is a thing. When you love it.
Yeah, doing the work, setting the challenge, setting the goal, that's the exciting part.
So would you do it if you didn't make money doing it?
Well, I did this for a year. I helped people for a year before I monetized it. Because I had the dance skill, so I wasn't necessarily doing it for the money. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They think, oh, what can I do to make money? Oh, let's go and be a business coach. I think it needs to come organically. Like, for me, I just really genuinely wanted to help people. I done it for free for a year, and then it got to the point where I'm like, oh, maybe we'll turn this into something. So I definitely think there's got to be an element of, it needs to be something that you actually are passionate about, not something that you see someone else doing online and think, that looks easy. Because I think people have that impression. They think, oh, that looks easy, I can do that. And it's actually not that. It's not that easy.
It's not that easy.
You've really got to love it, and you've got to have that certain level of obsession and delusion that you can make it work.
Delusion and obsession. I love that. 100%, especially if you want to run a business. Okay, so the last thing then, we'll ask you for your question that we will ask our next guest. You obviously have no idea who that guest is going to be, so it can be anything you want to ask.
Well, the first question that springs to mind is, if someone followed you around for a week, would they believe you're serious about your goals?
Ooh. I know who the next guest is, and I know he is serious about his goals, but I'm not telling you who it is. So I will ask that question, and it's a really good question, actually. And I think that's a really good question that anyone listening should ponder, because actually we can create vision boards, we can write the lists, we can think what we want, but are we doing the things that create the outcomes? A lot of people will be like, yeah, but I want this. For me at the moment, like this year, I'm going in the gym a lot. I'm doing spin, which I've never done spin before, but I'm doing spin. I'm like lifting weights and doing these things because they're the things I have to do to create the body that I want and the strength that I want and the peak performance in my mind that I want. Otherwise, I can think I want to have peak performance. I want to be strong mentally and physically, but if I don't do the doing, it won't happen. So everybody should ponder that question. It's such a good question, Louise. Thank you.
Yeah, I literally ask myself it every week, because the thing about goals is, like you say, people set the big goal, but then they're not actually changing the behaviour. They're not taking the action. So every week I'm like, am I serious about my goals this week? Right, what am I doing to make it serious? Like, what's the priorities? What's a waste of time? Where's my energy going? And I do think more people, if they ask themselves that, they would get closer to their goals, whether it's money goals, business goals, whatever it is.
And interestingly, one of my goals is to do 10,000 steps a day at least. And I've just looked at my Garmin and I've done 3,000 today, and it's like 5 o'clock. So I need to go out and take the action. Yeah, absolutely.
One of my goals was actually speaking on more podcasts. So this gets me closer to my goals.
There you go. Louise, thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place right now is at the Dance Business Coach on Instagram. I'm mostly on there. Okay. And yeah, come on and connect. I'm also on Facebook, but Instagram's my preferred platform.
Your preferred platform. Amazing. We'll make sure all the links and stuff with the show notes as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It's been a pleasure. We'll obviously connect to anyone who wants to be connected to Louise. Just get in touch with us and we can make that happen. But for now, thank you very much and we'll see you later.
Thank you for having me. I love the money chat.
Thank you so much for getting to the end of the podcast episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind you that the weekly Money Mechanics newsletter is available to you completely free. This is a newsletter that I'm going to send out every week to just give you some ideas around what's happening in the markets, what's happening at a global level, what's happening at a lot more local level, so that you can better understand what you can do with your money to make it work for you for the future. I'm also going to share in the newsletter what I'm doing in my own portfolio, just to give you some insights into what my ideas are, why I'm making the decisions that I'm making, in the hope that it will help you to make those decisions in your own portfolios as well. All you've got to do is find the link that's with this episode, hit the link and subscribe, and that newsletter will start to come out to you every single week. I'd also really love to take this opportunity to invite you to drop me a review. I love the opportunity of getting to share these podcast episodes with you. It really helps me to better understand how we can do the best job that we can here at Money Mechanics if you tell us your feedback. So drop us a review, tell us the sort of guests that you want, talk to me and connect with me on Instagram, talk to us on YouTube, wherever you are hanging out. Tell us how you're finding it and we can make this the very best podcast it can be. Thank you again for being such a valued listener. I appreciate you all, and I'll speak to you soon.